You know what's frustrating? Working hard with money and getting nowhere. You're trying, you really are. You cut back, you budget, you promise yourself this month will be different. You read the articles, you watch the videos, you take notes, but nothing changes. And the worst part? You start to wonder if you're just bad with money. Like maybe some people get it and you don't. Maybe you're missing something everyone else figured out. Spoiler, you're not. The problem isn't how hard you're working. The problem isn't that you're lazy or careless or broken. The problem is that you keep stopping and starting over. And every time you restart, you lose more than you think. Let me show you what I mean. Picture this. You decide to save money. Maybe it's New Year's, maybe it's after looking at your bank account and feeling that pit in your stomach. Doesn't matter. You decide this is it. Time to get serious. Week 1 feels amazing. You're packing lunch, skipping the drive-thru, making coffee at home. You transfer $50 to savings and it feels good, like you're finally doing something right. Week 2, you're still going strong. You've got momentum, you've got a system. Maybe you even tell someone about it. I'm really focusing on my finances right now. But week 3, something happens. Your car makes a weird noise, needs repairs, or a friend's birthday comes up, or work gets stressful, and you just need a break. And you stop. Not forever, not intentionally, just for now. I'll get back to it next week. But next week turns into 2 weeks. 2 weeks turns into a month. And then one day you look at your account and realize you're back where you started. So you do what anyone would do. You start again. Fresh energy, clean slate, this time for real. New determination, new promises. But here's the thing nobody tells you. Every time you restart, you're not continuing where you left off. You're starting from zero, from scratch. And starting from scratch costs you way more than you think. Real quick, if you're tired of finance advice that's all hustle and pressure, consider subscribing. I make videos about money that actually feel calm. No tricks, no yelling about side hustles, just honest talk about what actually works. Anyway, back to it. Let's talk about what happens when you restart. First, there's the obvious stuff. You lose momentum. Your savings stay flat. Nothing grows. The progress you made disappears. The habits you were building fade away. But the real damage? It's not in your bank account. It's in your head. Every time you stop, there's this little whisper. Quiet at first. You quit again. You can't stick to anything. Why even bother? And that voice, it gets louder every time. You don't notice it at first. The first time you restart, you're optimistic. Everyone stumbles. I'll just start fresh. The second time, you're still hopeful. Okay, this time I mean it. But by the 5th time, the 10th time, that optimism is gone. You start believing you're just not good at this, that financial discipline is something other people have, but not you, that maybe you're just wired differently. And here's where it gets really damaging. You start adding more pressure. The next time you try, you don't just want to save money, you want to prove to yourself that you can do it. You want to prove you're not a quitter. You want to make up for all the times you stopped. So you commit harder, you set bigger goals, you make it more intense. This time I'm saving $200 a month, not $50. This time I'm cutting out everything unnecessary. This time I'm all in. And when it falls apart again, and it will because you added too much pressure, the disappointment cuts deeper. It's not just about money anymore. It's about whether you can trust yourself, whether you're capable, whether there's even a point in trying. And that's exhausting. That emotional weight is heavier than any budget. Now, let's talk about what happens to your actual money during all this. When you're on, you're dialed in. You check prices, you compare options, you skip unnecessary stuff. You're aware of every dollar, where it's going, why it's going there. But when you're off, your brain treats it like a vacation, like you've earned a break. But here's the problem. Your old habits come back, and they come back quietly. The coffee runs restart. $5 here, $6 there. The subscriptions you forgot about, still charging you every month. The takeout orders, they don't seem like a big deal anymore, just something you do on tired nights. And all that money you could have saved, it just leaks out, slowly, quietly, invisibly. You don't even see it happening because you're not paying attention. You're between attempts. You're in the "I'll start again soon" phase. This is why inconsistent saving is actually worse than not saving at all. At least if you're not saving, you know where you stand. You know your situation. You're not kidding yourself. But when you're on and off, the money slips through the cracks, and you can't even figure out where it went. You look at your account and think, I wasn't spending that much. But you were. You just weren't watching. And the worst part? When you restart, you have to rebuild everything. The awareness, the habits, the discipline, all of it starts over. You're not building on a foundation. You're building from the ground up, again and again and again. Here's the thing about effort. It feels productive. When you're working hard, you feel like you're making progress. You're doing something, taking action, moving forward. And for a while, you are. But effort is exhausting. You can't sustain it forever. Nobody can. Think about it. When you go all in on something, what happens? You give it everything. Full focus, maximum energy. And for a few weeks, maybe a month, you're crushing it. But then what? You crash. You need a break. You deserve a break. You've been so disciplined, so focused, so intense. And that break feels earned. But that break turns into stopping. And stopping turns into restarting. And restarting turns into the same cycle you've been stuck in. Effort, burnout, restart. Effort, burnout, restart. And your money? It stays exactly where it is, because money doesn't care about how hard you tried. It doesn't care about your effort or your intentions or your determination. Money only responds to one thing: consistency. Not intensity, not effort, not working harder, consistency. Doing the same small thing over and over without stopping. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Consistency is boring. It doesn't feel impressive. It doesn't feel like progress. It just feels like nothing. But nothing is exactly what builds wealth. So what actually works? One decision, one small financial action that never changes. Not 5 decisions, not a complete overhaul, not a whole new system. One thing that happens every single week, no matter what. It could be transferring $20 every Friday. It could be skipping one specific purchase every week. It could be checking your bank account every Sunday morning. The action itself almost doesn't matter. What matters is that it never stops. You don't pause it when life gets busy. You don't skip it when you're tired. You don't wait for motivation to strike. You just do it. Because when something is small enough, there's no reason to stop. There's no burnout, no recovery needed, no willpower required. It just becomes part of your routine, like brushing your teeth. You don't think about it, you don't debate it, you don't psych yourself up for it. You just do it. And that's the secret. When something becomes automatic, it stops requiring effort. And when it stops requiring effort, you stop quitting. This is how you break the restart cycle. Not by trying harder, but by doing less. One thing, forever. Let me paint you a picture. 2 people trying to save money. Person A saves $100 every single month. No exceptions, no breaks. Person B saves $300 a month, but only when they're feeling motivated, 4 months out of the year. Same total, right? $1,200 at the end of the year. But they end up in completely different places. Person A has a habit. Their brain knows this is just what they do now. It's automatic, no thinking required. Saving $100 is just part of their month, like paying rent, like buying groceries. It's not optional, it's not up for debate. It just happens. Person B has intensity, big pushes, followed by nothing. During their on months, they're hyper-focused. They're saving, they're disciplined, they're aware. But during their off months, everything falls apart. The small leaks add up. They spend a little more freely. They lose the discipline. The awareness fades. And by the time they start again, they've lost more than they gained. Not just in money, but in momentum, in confidence, in trust in themselves. Intensity feels impressive. It feels like you're really doing something, like you're serious, like you're committed. But consistency builds wealth. Not because it's impressive, but because it's sustainable, because it doesn't require breaks, because it never stops. Nobody's going to celebrate you for putting away $20 on a Friday. No applause for saying no to takeout on Tuesday. No Instagram post about checking your bank account every Sunday. It doesn't feel like progress because it's boring, repetitive, forgettable, unglamorous. But that's exactly why it works. Boring doesn't require motivation. You don't need to feel inspired to do something boring. You just do it because it's there. Small doesn't require energy. You don't need to be at your best to do something small. Tired? You can still do it. Stressed? You can still do it. Busy? You can still do it. Automatic doesn't require thought. You don't need to make a decision every time. You don't need to weigh the options. You just do it because it's what you do. You're not trying to feel inspired every single day. You're not relying on motivation to show up. You're just doing the thing, again and again and again. And 6 months later, when you check your account, you'll realize something. The money is there, not because you had a breakthrough, not because you worked harder, not because you found the perfect strategy, but because you never stopped. That $20 you transferred every Friday, that's over $500. That takeout you skipped every Tuesday, that's another $400 saved. That awareness you maintained by checking your account every Sunday, that prevented who knows how many impulse purchases. None of it felt significant at the time. None of it felt like it mattered. But all of it added up. Because that's how money actually works. Not in big moments, but in small, boring, consistent actions. Here's what's interesting about streaks. When you're on day 1, it's easy to quit. I'll just start again tomorrow. No big deal. You haven't built anything yet. Day 5? Still pretty easy. I'll pick it up next week. You've only done it a few times. Starting over isn't that hard. But when you hit day 30, day 60, something shifts. You don't want to break it, not because it's hard to restart, but because the streak itself has value now. You've built something. And breaking it would mean throwing that away. Throwing away all those weeks where you showed up, where you did the thing, even when you didn't feel like it. This is why the beginning is the hardest part. You're not protecting anything yet. You're just doing the action. And when it's just the action, it's easy to skip. But once you have a streak, even a small one, it protects itself. You keep going because you've already kept going. The momentum builds its own momentum. This is the power of continuity. It compounds, not just your money, but your identity. After 2 months of transferring $20 every Friday, you're not just someone trying to save, you're someone who saves every Friday. That's who you are now. And when it's part of your identity, you don't need willpower anymore. You just do it because it's what you do. We love the idea of big wins, the perfect investment, the side hustle that takes off, the raise that solves everything, the moment where everything clicks and your finances transform. And sure, those things help. If you get a raise, great. If you find a good investment, wonderful. But they're not what actually changes your financial situation. What changes your money is what you do every week. Not once, not when you feel like it, not when everything lines up perfectly. Every week. Because financial stability isn't built from big moments. It's built from small decisions that compound. You transfer a little, it adds up. You skip a purchase, it adds up. You stay aware, it adds up. And one day you look at your account and realize you're not stressed anymore. Not because you got rich, not because you had some massive windfall, but because you have a cushion, because you have options, because you stopped leaking money, because you built something slowly without even realizing it. And it happened so gradually you barely noticed. There was no dramatic moment, no before and after photos, no transformation story, just quiet, boring progress, week after week, month after month, until one day things were different. I know what you're waiting for. The thing that clicks, the moment it all makes sense, the strategy that finally works, the breakthrough. But here's the truth. That moment isn't coming. Not because you're broken, not because you're not smart enough or disciplined enough, but because breakthroughs aren't real, at least not the way we think they are. Financial change doesn't happen in a flash. It doesn't happen when you finally get it. It doesn't happen when you find the perfect system. It happens in the boring middle. The part where nothing feels like it's happening, where you're just doing the same small thing over and over, where you look at your account and think, is this even working? No drama, no excitement, no transformation story, just continuity. And continuity is what actually works. Not because it's inspiring, not because it feels good, but because it's sustainable. You can do it when you're tired. You can do it when you're busy. You can do it when life is chaotic. Because it's small enough to fit into any day, simple enough to work in any situation, automatic enough to survive any mood. Here's my challenge. Pick one financial decision. One. Make it small, make it simple, make it specific. Maybe it's putting away $10 every Friday. Maybe it's saying no to one unnecessary thing each week. Maybe it's looking at your account every Sunday morning. Do it this week. Then do it next week and the week after that. Don't track your progress. Don't celebrate milestones. Don't post about it. Don't tell anyone. Just keep going. 3 months from now, you won't remember most of the weeks. They'll blur together. Nothing special, nothing memorable. But your account will remember all of them. Because money doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about your motivation or your inspiration or your breakthroughs. It responds to your consistency. And consistency is something you can do. Not because you're special, but because it's small enough to be easy. You know what the secret is? There isn't one. You don't need a better strategy. You don't need more discipline. You don't need to work harder. You don't need to find the perfect system or read the right book or watch the right video. You just need to stop restarting. Pick something small and never stop doing it. That's it. That's the whole thing. Financial stability isn't built from breakthroughs. It's not built from working harder or trying more or pushing through. It's built from continuity, the boring, quiet, unglamorous kind. The kind nobody talks about, the kind that doesn't make a good story, the kind that doesn't feel like anything, but the kind that actually works. You don't need a breakthrough. You need continuity. And continuity is just showing up, week after week, even when it's boring, even when it doesn't feel like it matters, even when nobody's watching. That's how you change your money, not dramatically, but permanently. If this made sense to you, I'd really appreciate if you subscribed. I make videos about money and behavior every week. No hype, no pressure, just honest talk about what actually works. I'd love to have you around. Thanks for watching. And more importantly, thanks for sticking with this. It means a lot.